Layla Kardan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thank you for coming. Before we start, I have to say one thing that I absolutely love about you. And I saw that when you came to my launch event almost a year ago. You are I really have to say, like, such a woman who supports other women like I've never seen before.
Oh, I love that. That means so much to me.
Like when I ask you to, if you can do the podcast, you said to me, yes, when, let me know, I'll be there. When you talk about my product, and I see on Instagram as well, like how much you post about your friends, like I can see the excitement. Like you can tell, like, man, she is really a real woman in, like, how do you say that? Like she does women empowerment and it comes from your heart. So
that means a lot to me. But I grew up with 3 sisters, so we're 4 girls.
Oh, wow.
My family is mostly women. And I think we just always grew up with this very healthy support and no competition. And I think my message has always been, all about the plight of the female, especially in this part of the world. So I think that collectively we can be a lot stronger. Right. And I think it's a beautiful thing to support your friends. And of course it's you. So whatever you say, I'm in for.
Thank you. The same. But how is that? Like, I mean, I know for myself, I love to support also women, men, everyone. But I would say between women, there's a lot of like cattiness, and there's a lot of like, I fall off more with women than with men. And I think you're the same. Like I grew up as a tomboy, and I think you're the same, right? Similar?
I'm more of a tomboy now than I was back then.
Really?
Yeah, I was like a classical ballerina. I was a bit more feminine, but now I'm more of a tomboy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you're
But I am like in that way. I'm not that princess girl. Like I've always been, I think growing up in Australia had a lot to do with it as well. You're much more earthy there. You don't grow up like, like this very prim, you're out like climbing trees and that kind of thing. I think that's what you mean, right?
Yes, yeah. That's interesting though, because now living in Dubai, there's a lot of like, like it's interesting because I thought you were more tomboy in Australia than here, because now here everyone is like so well put together and like so girly. So that's interesting.
Look, I feel like like when you become confident and comfortable with who you are as a person, especially as a woman, you don't feel the need to like show up in those like stereotypical feminine ways, because I feel like some of them are unhealthy. At the same time, I'm always really proud of being a woman and celebrate, those feminine characteristics, which means that I can be strong, but I am also very fine to be vulnerable, because that's what's so beautiful about being a woman, right? So, yeah.
But you never had that in your career. We'll come back to, your career and what you do. But like, you never had that in your, like, did you have that a lot where you had that cattiness with other females, not from your side, but from the other females? Like,
yeah, for sure.
How did you deal with that?
And like this one specific case, because I find like these kind of situations don't tend to happen to me very often. I think because the energy I project is like, you can't mess with me kind of thing. So like typically,
I see that.
Yeah, but I do it in a nice way. So like typically I don't attract these situations. But in one case when it did happen, and it was a very ugly way, like, like this particular person who was really nobody, like, and you tend to find that that kind of cattiness comes from people who have such a void within themselves, did something really ugly. And then she tried to backtrack, and she called me or she messaged me, and I said, listen, what you did was totally unacceptable and fundamentally like wrong and ugly. And if you call yourself a feminist, you have to be a feminist like in your behaviors every day. So don't be like repping women and then all of a sudden you act this way. Just like, she tried to make amends. I said, sorry, I don't mess with people like that. You know what I mean? That's the boundary, and that's it.
So, and then do you give people like that like a second chance, or you're like, you mess with me and you're out of my life?
I mean, she wasn't anyone to me, so no. Like, and now when I see her out, I don't say hi. I'm like, I don't have time to be a fake person.
Right.
I don't have time to, pour energy and like pretend I like someone if I really like for me, that was a very ugly act. And why should I be friends with someone like that?
Right.
And that's it. I mean, that's all it comes down to. I don't go to sleep thinking about her, but also I won't allow someone to disrespect me and then like just act like it's okay.
So I want to say, so you were born in Belgium.
Yeah.
You moved to Australia. Then you moved to the US in LA, right?
How do you know all this?
Then, I did some research. Excuse me.
Go.
And then you, I think your dad moved to Dubai first, right? Or
Yeah.
you all came to Dubai. And originally you're Persian.
Yeah.
Where is home to you?
Oh, it's a really tough question. Because honestly, I know this sounds really cheesy, but for me, home is where your heart is. You know, like
that.
I think as, you know, third culture kids or people who are like living in the diaspora, it's really hard to connect with one place, you know. Australia is home because my family lives there and I grew up there. But on the other hand, Dubai is now home for me as well. My son's here, my husband's here. I'm not moving anytime soon. I live here. But of course, I'm so proud of my heritage and I'm proud of where I came from. And so, yeah, I feel like I always call myself a cow, a citizen of the world.
I love that.
Wherever I'm living at that moment is my home.
Yeah. So I want to, you know, like I came to, I think like 1 or 2 of your shows. You have an incredible voice.
Thank you, my love.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
And something that's really interesting to me is because I know the Persian culture and I know the Middle Eastern culture. It can be at times it could be tough, especially growing up from, you know, when you want to go after your dreams, right? For example, you wanted to become a singer, or I always wanted to become like an entrepreneur, even as a kid. And especially my dad, and that's such a Middle Eastern thing, I feel, where they want to see us either become a lawyer, a doctor,
an engineer.
I mean, Persians, of course, you have to be an engineer. It's so hard to go sometimes against your parents because we love them so much and we don't want to disappoint them. But I feel like with the Middle Eastern culture as well, you don't just have your parents, but you have your whole family. You know what I mean? That you don't want to disappoint. So how was it for you to go to your dad or your family and say, you know what? My dream is to become a singer and a performer. Walk me through that process when you went and told your parents.
I mean, I didn't really tell them. I was much older. So I was like, I'm going to do this. But I guess like the ambition was always there from when I was a young girl, but it was always kind of like vetoed, like it's not happening. And the funny thing is, like, I was a classical pianist, I was a classical ballerina, like all of those things were fun. But when it came to singing, that was something like that wasn't acceptable for a certain class of, you know, girl and whatever, and no one will marry you and all this BS, right? My mom's very supportive and she's cool, but like also my dad is not very conventional in that way. Like my sister went to him and said like, I want to be a doctor. He said, no way, you're going to sit in a room and see sick people all day. Go be an entrepreneur. Like he was very much, he was very much like unconventional in that sense. And he always thought like if I was going to become a singer, that I would diminish my intelligence and not use, you know, what I had to the best of my ability to have the best life. But what he didn't understand was like, for me, it was just like, it was a kind of do or die situation. Like I loved it so much that if I didn't do it, I would live a life of eternal unhappiness. And like now he's super proud of me and like of the things that I've done and, you know, things that I did on my own without support and all of that. But he's never seen me perform live. I think that would just like be the thing that would really be so hard for him to watch.
Why?
You know, they have this like mentality that if you're an entertainer, you're basically low class and like, you know how it is in Persians, like, and like, I think it's just hard for him. And it's also hard for me to be like in my true essence of a performer if my dad's like sitting there like watching me, you know?
Yeah, but you were like such a classical performer. You know what I mean? Like you're like, I don't know, like it's interesting for me to hear that, because I would think that if he would sit there and see you and see the crowd and how you sing and how you perform, I think he would even be more proud.
I mean, one would hope. I just don't want to like take the risk.
You don't?
No, but you know, like my mom went.
She saw it.
She's seen me perform and she's very supportive. And like she went to my cabaret, which was very risque. And I remember I just had the baby and I was like, oh my God, like, is this going to be fine for her? But my mom's very cool. So she was like, I love it. It's fab. And then I was like, okay, guys, like I said to my staff, like make sure like they're taken care of and it's not too risque. And like at like midnight, they sent me pictures of them like dancing on the tables, you know?
Your mom?
Yeah. So my mom's very cool and like into culture and arts and things like that. So I wasn't surprised. But yeah, my dad's a different story. And like, to be honest, I respect that. At the beginning, I was like, I'm going to go up against it and I'm going to fight it. And then I was like, you know what? That's his story. And I respect it. We don't have to be at loggerheads. I share what I want. I'm also an adult. I've done what he wanted for me. I studied, I did my undergrad, I did my postgrad. I worked and I wasn't happy. So it's my life. I choose the path that makes me happy, respectfully. And, you know, and I've always been respectful to my culture and my family. So at the end of the day, they can't say anything. And that's it. I'm living my truth. And like,
but that's right there. Like, what, two things. What if you went to your parents and they were not happy? Like, what would you have done if they would come to you and tell you, look, Layla, you're our daughter, this and that, but we cannot support that? Because I have a lot of friends, like Persians, Middle Eastern friends, that I see that they are so, you know, I mean,
they're holding back.
They're holding back. And I can see how sad they are because they don't have that, like what we have. It's like, you know what, that's who I am, that's my truth, and I have to go after what I feel.
Yeah.
So if your parents would say to you, no, we cannot support that, what would you have done?
Like, there was kind of that when I was younger. And so that's why I did it later. But like if they said no, I would have said, I would have done it anyway. You know, like I didn't require their support. I wasn't living in their house.
But we don't have that. As Middle Eastern, we don't have that. Like, you don't live in my house, you can do whatever you want. I lived in LA and my parents were still like, where are you going? When are you coming home? You know what I mean? I was like, I'm 30, but okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I would have just said like, too bad. Like it or lump it, basically. Respectfully. I keep saying that because it's not nice to be disrespectful to your parents, right? Because your parents give you everything. They give you life. And like, it doesn't matter who they are, how good they are, how bad they are. I always respect my parents. I really put them on my head and I love them. But also I love myself and I love my life and I want to be authentic.
Right.
And I want to also like set an example for my kid so that he feels like he could do anything he wants in this life. Literally, I have told my husband, if my son comes and tells me I want to be a clown, I will say, great. If you're passionate about it, just do that.
I love that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to set him up. So he doesn't have to worry about whether or not he gets jobs. But like, really, I feel like life is so short that the thing that we need to learn is, okay, discipline is a real thing. Work ethic is a real thing. But without passion, what is this life, you know?
I want to go back to, so you decided you want to, you know, become a singer. Well, you were always a singer, but like now officially
I wasn't though, by the way. I wasn't. I never had a vocal lesson in my life. I just said from one day to the next, I'm a singer.
Are you?
Yes.
What?
Actually, I used to have a lot of problems with my voice because I used to speak like a boy. Back to the tomboy thing, like I would talk like this when I was, even though I had really long hair, I was quite feminine. But I would talk like a boy because I wanted people to take me seriously. So I would always lose my voice. I had tonsillitis. I never sang when I did like theater productions, but I never had vocal lessons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're going to even be more badass. Damn, that's like, okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen you perform and I have to say, like, I know Layla, and we will talk about you, you know, with your entrepreneur side. And I see you but I also see Layla the performer. And I have to say, like, when you're performing, and I remember that one night I saw you and there was like this aura around you. Like, I was like, man, she is exactly where she needs to be on stage.
You're gonna make me cry
right now. No, but I'm serious. Like, it's I love you. Like, I'm serious. Like, you're such an incredible performer. And what I love about what I saw is you were so good with the audience. And I think that really makes a performer. It's not just the sound, it's not just what you wear. It's like, how are you connecting with the crowd and how are you moving, you know, the moods of the whole crowd. And what you did, I have to say, was incredible.
Thank you.
So I want to know, so you decided you're going to be a singer, you're going to be a performer. I'm sure with anything else in life, it just didn't happen just like that. Like, how was the process from when you decided to where you are now? Because you are really well known in this like in the Middle East, especially Dubai. Everyone knows Layla. You know, it's amazing. I love that. But how was it from? Because I want people who are watching this right now to understand what it took to get to where you are now.
I think it was like a switch that I like, literally I was on my knees. Like, I was really not in a good place mentally because I wasn't living my truth. Like, I couldn't commit to a relationship. I wasn't happy in where I was at, even though I was successful. It's just like I wasn't aligned with who I was supposed to be. Like, I feel like from the day I was born, I was supposed to be a performer, really. And like, I was blocked, you know, and I was mentally blocked as well because I was like, so many people I'm letting down. And even at the beginning, I used to go home after a performance and I would like cry because I would be thinking whatever I was thinking people were thinking of me. I felt like I was projecting onto myself. They might not have necessarily been thinking that, but all these years of like conditioning and beliefs about that profession like really stifled me. But anyway, I mean, from one day to the next, I literally said, I'm a singer. This is what I'm going to do. I sold all my jewelry, my bags, whatever I had, and said, I'm going to do this without stress so that I don't have to like worry about how I'm going to pay my rent. But also then I was like, I'm going to perform everywhere. I got myself an amazing band. Like, I didn't even know how to perform with a band, but I got myself up to speed. Like, it took work. I performed everywhere. Like, and I didn't care. I'm like, nowadays I see some younger people and they're already like, yes, I will only do this and I will only do that. I'm like, you know what? These people, like Amy Winehouse started like, I'm not comparing myself to her, but she started singing at like Pizza Express. But you got to have no shame. You just got to go for it, because the only way that you actually build cred and like performance ability, you can't learn that stuff in your bedroom. You learn that when you're on stage and like how you interact with people. I definitely wasn't like that when I started out. I know that I am very comfortable on a stage and I can interact with a crowd, but that was something that I really had to master.
How do you do that? Because a lot of people, we care so much of what other people think of us, right? How do I look? Am I this? Am I that? How was it for you? Were you just like, you know what? I don't know what the hell I'm doing, you know, with the band or whatever. How was it for you where you're like, you know what? Who cares? Like, let me just be me. Like, because for me, it takes, I don't know, like for me, it's like, because I'm getting closer to being 40. And when I turned 35, it was for me where I said, you know what? I don't care anymore. Like, this is who I am. I'm not going to be loved by everyone. I need to love me. I need to be able to look in the mirror and love me, right? And it took me about 35 years to get there. And there's some times where I'm like, you know, still questioning like what people think, but only a few times. But how was that for you when you're like, I will figure this out. I'm going to go through all the BS, right? I'm going to perform at anywhere I can. And this is who I am.
It was harder at the beginning. Like, I used to suffer because like you're standing on stage and there's like 200 pairs of eyes on you and like they're all full of judgment. So one's thinking this and one's thinking that. And most people, let's be fair, let's be real here, are very critical. And that usually comes from a place of like self-critiquing as well. It's like what they do to themselves, they do to other people kind of thing. And so I would go home and I'd like cry, or I'd like have a salt bath to try to rid myself of that negative energy. And then I started like saging before I would perform, and like putting my crystals around. And then I got to a point where I was like, you know what? And I know this is a bit like, might be offensive to some, but it's true. Opinions are like, everybody has one, right? Sorry, you can mute that out. But like, really, I mean, if you're going to give yourself up to everybody's opinions, like, how are you going to survive? And then secondly, what my dad always used to say is like, you could be the juiciest peach in the world, but not everybody likes peaches, you know? So like, why are you constantly trying to win people's affection? Of course, being a performer, part of it is being liked and loved and whatever, but you can't focus on the people who don't love you. If you just focus on the people that love you and like what you do and follow you and are there for the journey, I think that's much more valuable than focusing on a million others. I can say straight up, like, there's many huge artists that I don't like, or there's many big entrepreneurs that you don't like. It doesn't mean that everybody has to like you, right? And some people will take you the wrong way, and that's okay. Like, if it's not my family and my close friends, to be honest, I got into a place where I really don't care. And if I do find that someone's being disrespectful, I will very easily put them in their place politely and just be like, you're not a part of this scenario. Like, it doesn't matter, you know? And I think people just need to get to a point in life where you realize, actually, and it happens with age, but you do realize, like, it's, if you're going to let that hold you back, then you're never going to rise, you know, because there's always going to be negative people around you, and it could be even people close to you, right?
You were saying before, and I want to go back to that. You said that you were mentally not in a good space, right? Would you say that you had like depression, anxiety?
Or... I had severe depression. Like, it was like a chronic depression, because I was like 30 and I was like, this is not who I want to be. This is not, and I really am a person who is like, since I've been young, I've been so curious, and I was like, I can't just like succumb to this life of becoming like a basic, you know what I mean? And then end up like, I just can't be that person. I have so much I want to share, like whether it was poetry or song or singing or whatever it was. And I felt like I was just conforming, and that was really getting me down. And like, when I went to the doctor, she was like, okay, we can put you on like whatever meds. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. So I ended up like just putting everything in storage, and I went on a like international journey where I just like traveled the world for like almost a year. And that really helped me like reset, write music, record music, and then, you know.
Why? Because, you know, like depression and anxiety, I know how it feels because I was dealing with that growing up. And I'm like you, I didn't really take any medication. Why did you decide at that point when you saw the doctor, you said, you know what? No, I'm not going to take that, which I don't think anything is bad. Like if you take it or not, whatever works best for you. But when you were sitting there and you had the option to either take it or not, what made you feel like, what was going through your head where you said, no, I'm not going to take anything? Because like, it's hard. A lot of people don't even understand what depression or anxiety is. And I'm sorry, I don't like to use the word hate, but I really, let's say, dislike when someone has depression and the only thing that they say is like, just think positive.
Oh yeah.
Just be positive. Yeah. It's like, oh no, really?
Yeah.
Like I wish it would be that easy.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, because you are more from this region and you've, you know, lived here longer, I just feel like from the culture where we are coming from, we don't really talk about that. It's like, you don't talk about, there's no depression, there's no anxiety. You had a bad day, that's it, and move on, right? When you were sitting there, what was going through your head?
I mean, look, there's definitely a place for medication for people. I'm not denying that. But like, I'm just typically the way I've always been is quite holistic from a young age. So I don't even like to take, a tablet for a headache. So I wasn't going to like suddenly become dependent or find a crutch in meds when I felt like I had the possibility to enhance my life in a way that was more meaningful. Having said that, I'm not saying that it doesn't have its place, because like a chemical imbalance in your brain is a real thing.
Right.
And I understand that like it does help a lot of people. But for me, I just did not want to subscribe to that at that part of my life. So, and I'm glad I didn't, because it opened up a lot more doors for me and opportunities for me. So it was awesome.
Wow. So you went and traveled the world for 1 year. What happened? What did you do? Perform? Or
no, I wasn't performing. I was just like doing things that I wanted to do. I went and lived in Paris for like 2 months, and I attempted to learn French. I didn't succeed. It was more out every night. I know the hardest language. I went to the Seychelles. I went to Thailand, and I did Muay Thai training. And I did like full-on workouts. I did a detox. I went to the States. I went to Australia, spent like quality time with my family. I went to Holland. I went like lots of places. I mean, I can't even remember the itinerary, but not the whole entire world, but I did do some like traveling and inward journeying. I went to Portugal and lived on like a organic farm for a couple of weeks, and then went to this like crazy festival. Like all of these things that I did were gifts for me to realign myself, recalibrate, and then connect who I was as Layla without all of those titles and like expectations. And then I was able to really like go into myself and like have that introspection and reflection and say like, who am I as a person? Who am I as an artist? What do I want to talk about? All of these things.
So one thing, I grew up in Switzerland, and then I moved to LA when I was 20, 21. So I was never really around, the Middle Eastern culture or the Persian culture. My Farsi is really bad, not gonna lie. So I, my whole life I felt like, in a way I have to become like one of the Swiss girls or one of the American girls, right? Because I look different, my color is different and all that. And coming here, and I remember, this is why I have so much love for you. When I came here, my publicist, when we created the event, right, she gave me a guest list. She's like, who you want to invite? And you're one of the first people I saw, and I saw your picture, and I was like, who is she?
Aww.
Right? And then my publicist was telling me about you and all that, and I was like, wait, she's Persian? I was like, I need her, like, I have to meet her. She's like, she's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And then I got to meet you. And I would say you're not a typical Persian, but then you are. You are, you know what I mean? It's like a weird mix. Like you are not, but you still are. And I don't know, just talking to you and hanging out around you and with you, I just feel like so much closer to the Persian culture, right? How was that for you growing up? Like, you are Persian. Did you feel the same like
I
growing
feel
up?
exactly the same as you. Like, this is actually really funny. I grew up in a very white area. Like, I grew up on a golf course. No Iranians are going to go live on a golf course, right?
Wow.
Like, it was a very white. So I had Persian friends, and my mom had Persian friends, but we were like very, my parents were quite different to like typical Persians, right? Because they also studied in Switzerland and whatever, in Lausanne.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so they would speak French and like all of that. So they were a bit different. But then also like, I grew up in such a white area. So at one point I used to tell people my name was Stephanie. And my mom was like, Yanichi, Stephanie, Yanichi. Stephanie. And I was like, I know, I should have chosen something else like Natalie. But she's like, Stephanie, Yanichi. Anyway, so I was like, obviously trying to always fit in because all my friends were white. Like I didn't really have that many Persian friends besides my best friend, but she was the same, like, you know. And we all had like, it was a very white community. So we'd always just try to be like more like them. And then as I got older, I started to like really enjoy the nuances of our culture. I used to have like friends that would come over to the house and be like, oh my God, I want your mom's cooking, even though like to them it looked terrible, but tasted amazing, you know? And then like it started to become exotic. And then Persian girls were it in Sydney, you know, like the most beautiful. So then all the guys are like, oh, you're Persian. So I'm like, yes. You know, so like, I guess over time, of course, when you're younger, you don't want to be different. Especially when you look so different, you know.
Just feel what you're just saying.
It's a hard thing to go through.
Even with my hair, I used to have a lot of like, the Persian hair. And I would say to my mom, like, no, I want it thinner. I want it thinner, just like my friend. And my mom would say, trust me, you want that hair. And I would be always going to her and be like, no, I don't want that. Or I don't want,
In our era, like the thin eyebrows were in. And we had these like beautiful thick eyebrows and everyone's like, what the hell?
Yes. And now I'm like, oh my God, thank God.
I mean, look, the thing is like, I think it happens in every culture, right? Kids don't want to be different. They get picked on if they are. But then I learned to just be like, there was this one girl who used to pick on my sister and she was like twice my size. And she used to like call her like derogatory names and stuff. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not taking this anymore. And I went and like, I gave her one. You know what I mean? I got in big trouble. Not that, but like I gave her one. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, my mom's going to come to school. I'm going to get in so much trouble. And she came to school and she said, well, you and the children in this school are racist. And she did what? And I was like, yes, Mom. And then from that moment, like no one would mess with us anymore because they knew like it was going to be trouble, right?
For me, I think that's also, something that I took with me my whole life. And I don't know if I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, but, like we were refugees in Switzerland. And I had a refugee passport until I was 16 years old. And not a lot of friends of mine knew about that, right? Because again, back to, we don't want to be different than anyone else. And I was not allowed to travel to a lot of places. When you're a refugee, like you have to wait and there's certain countries that you're allowed to go and travel. So we'd always go to Sweden. There's another country that they let us come in. So I always had that, even though I grew up in Switzerland, but I always, because of the refugee passport, because I look different, and I tried so hard to be like my Swiss friends, it messed up a lot with me. And I know that's one of the big reasons why I would have like, I became a tomboy, or I started like, with depression and anxiety because.
You got that young, at a young age?
I got it, a younger age, yes. Because again, back to, I never knew exactly who am I? You know what I mean? Like,
sure, I get it.
Because I was not a girly girl. I was like the boys. I was always with the boys. And then, like you always have that refugee thing over you, right? Because you can't really travel, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, okay, who am I? And I think when I came to LA, it's when I started to be like, you know what? Because there were so many people around me who looked different.
Yeah.
Right?
More ethnic people, yeah.
Right. And that's when I started to be like, you know what? Actually, it's okay with how I look. It's okay. Not that Switzerland ever, really made me feel a certain way, but I felt more comfortable when I was in LA. But then moving to Dubai, I was like, oh, I look the same.
As everyone.
And that was
so gorgeous.
Thank you.
Radiant.
Thank you. But that feeling like you come here, like you're nothing really special, like, your skin, the hair, whatever. And I love that. You know what I mean? So that's,
it made you feel accepted?
Yeah, me accepted.
I think it's a really hard thing to go through. I think in life, like your identity as you're growing up,
right?
Like a lot of kids struggle with identity crisis, even if they're in a community full of like, if they're white and everyone around them is white. So then to put on top of that into the mix, like being from a completely different ethnic background, which in those times was kind of looked down upon because of obviously politically all of that makes it hard. And then obviously, you know, anyone who was a refugee out of Iran was from a very respectable family. Like you take that away and they've had to deal with like loss of land, loss of property, loss of assets, loss of status and life and everything, to go and start from zero in a country they don't speak the language. You're also taking on a lot of your family's, you know, inherent like feeling of, you know, it's not easy on anyone. When I think about what like Iranians or Iraqis or Syrians or whatever have to go through, it's really a lot when you think about it, you know. And, you know, a lot of these things were implicated by the West. So then put that on top of it as well. So, I mean, I think it's a really hard thing to go through. I think at the same time, I believe that a diamond is only formed under pressure. So I see a lot of people that were around me that like, that didn't go through maybe the same hardships that like someone from a different ethnicity or like with the family dynamics or whatever it was that we went through. But I feel like that kind of sharpens you and you have a choice. Like, do I either rise to the occasion or do I stay in this state of like depression and sadness or anxiety, which, you know, is sometimes very hard to break away from. But like small actions can get you to a place of, you know, good momentum and then good things start to happen. But I think like it shouldn't be taken away from the fact that what refugees that have to start again from zero in a country that is completely foreign to them. And most of the time they don't even want to be there. You know?
I wanted to ask you, because I was so curious, because I was like, why? Because you were living in LA as well. Why didn't you not decide to pursue your singing career in LA?
I was going to move there and then COVID happened.
No way.
I had everything packed up and like I was living in a hotel in Dubai, and literally like as I was planning my O1 visa and all of that, COVID happened. And you know what? It was definitely my destiny, because not that I felt like LA, I'm very grateful to Dubai and all of the opportunities that it gave me. I feel like I maybe would never have been able to do what I did here in LA. But after COVID, like a couple of months after that, I met my husband, you know, and like then I had my beautiful child and I started my businesses. So I really don't see it as a bad thing. It was just the way things took a different turn, and I'm happy they did, because honestly speaking, I don't want to be in America. Like I don't support anything that they stand for right now, and I'm very happy to be here.
So I wanted to ask you, because a lot of people know you as a, you know, singer, entertainer, but you're also an entrepreneur, right? So you have your own wellness, how do you say, like wellness
studios.
Wellness studio, right? Contrast.
Yeah.
I took my mom, made her go into the ice bath. She wanted to kill me and disown me in that moment, not gonna lie. But she felt really great after, because she had a lot of like issues with her arm. How did you get into that? From this to I mean, how many locations do you have now? 5?
4.
4?
Yeah,
right?
we just opened our 4th location, and in less than 2 years. So actually in a year and a half, we opened 4 locations. Look, I think COVID was a good turning point for me, because I was like making most of my money from live performances and it was great. But then I realized, okay, first of all, COVID happened and there wasn't any live performances. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I'm not a person that like sits and waits for opportunity. I chase it. And then there was this opportunity to open our cabaret, and my husband's a restaurateur. So at that time we were like, let's do this together. But we weren't married then. I was like, if this happens and we fall out, we got to stay like very amicable and professional. Anyway, I was like, you know, that was a dream I always had. And I was like, for me, I have a mindset of like, life is so precious and short, but at the same time, like I love creating. So for me, creating our own brands was really important. We created Papillon, which was like Dubai's first risque cabaret. And it was a beautiful project. But then I fell pregnant, and like obviously the baby came first. At the same time, we opened 3 restaurants in Abu Dhabi, which we created from scratch. And also they were beautiful and like successful and everything. But, you know, our life became like sleep at 10 p.m., wake up at 5, 6 a.m. And, you know, when you're having a little healthy family, that nightlife is just not, it's not conducive to like a healthy life, right? So Hamdan and I were avid sauna goers. Like we would go all the time, and the experiences that we had weren't great. And also it was very expensive. So we wanted to offer something to people that would give them this healthy escape in a very accessible way that would have a positive impact. So that's now become our thing. Is like all the businesses that we do, we want it to have a positive impact on people, and the legacy that the businesses have and what we offer our son as a business is something that actually is good for people, you know. So that's where like the wellness idea was born out of our own experiences, the lack of offering in the market. And we just saw the potential, the opportunity. We love creating brands because, you know, I'm creative, my husband's creative. We put our brains together, we made it happen. And like, we're really happy with it. And we're now planning to franchise. So it's something that will be
amazing.
Yeah.
So for the people watching, like, can you tell them a little bit about what Contrast is?
Contrast is basically it's a wellness studio that offers some holistic biohacking techniques. It's a sauna and ice studio. So in basic terms, we like bringing ancient healing modalities or practices to the modern world in a modern way. So in a way that, you know, is accessible for people who are time poor, that can go in and out and do it. You don't need to go for a 3-hour spa experience and also pay spa prices. It's just something that we believe that, and you know, the studies show that infrared sauna has, you know, is one of the most important things to do when we're talking about longevity and biohacking. And it's just a sweat, but like the environment that offers you that sweat to be able to get rid of the heavy metals and the toxins in your system. When you think about it, we don't sweat that much. Even in the gym, it's like full AC, right? So that sweating is really important, and it's recommended to do it 2 to 3 times a week. So hence why it's an easy in and out option. And then we have the ice baths, we have massage, and we have IV therapies as well.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So,
how many times, honestly, how many times do you do the ice bath?
To be honest with you, I'm not doing the ice bath right now because I'm working on having another baby.
Oh,
I'm working on it. I'm not having
I
one
know,
yet.
but still. I mean, I look at your son and he's the cutest thing ever.
Thank you, my love. He's adorable, but he's like, he's a little gangster. Yeah, no, and so basically,
why you're saying that? Like, what does that mean? That if you're trying to be pregnant, you shouldn't do any ice bath?
It's very good for blood flow, ice bath. It's very good for inflammation. It's good for all of that. But like in the moment, it's not good it's good to keep the womb warm when you're trying to conceive.
Okay.
Yeah. But like the sauna I do 3 times a week.
Oh, amazing.
It's so important because it helps with water retention, inflammation. It's good for cardiovascular health. It's so good for your skin and like staying young and radiant and all of that. So, I mean, the sauna I do all the time, and plus there's Netflix in there, so I can just Netflix and sweat, and like, you know, that's like a beautiful escape for me because I get to like have that hour where I can like just work on my wellness. I burn up to 600 calories in one session without having to go to the gym. Yeah, and then the ice bath is also amazing for like recovery, for like circulation. It's really.
So do you see a lot of difference from before you even started and now? Like, what's the difference that you saw in your body and mentally?
It's well, first of all, the sauna and ice bath help rid your body of brown fats as well. So I feel like, especially after I had the babies when I started, it helped me lose weight. but also it just gives me like the mental resilience that I need. I have a very stressful life. Like at the same time of trying to raise a 2-year-old boy, I have like a lot of businesses. I have to perform. So it gives me physical strength. It helps with circulation. And honestly, right now I don't want to go to the gym that much. So this is my gym. It gets my heart rate pumped and my heart rate up, and I get my sweat in, and I feel like I'm doing this as a gift for my son also, because I had him when I was a bit older and I just want to be around longer, right? So that's my dedication.
Okay. So I want to know, because like I love everything like entrepreneurship, right? Like,
and you're so good at it.
Thank you. That's like my passion. And I know I have that from my dad. So, but a lot of people really don't understand what it means to be an entrepreneur. They think all the glamour, it's like, like you always look like this, which like don't. Like most of the time I have no makeup, I run around, and it's like always chaos, and it's like there's so much that goes into being an entrepreneur, right? But for you, I mean, you took it to the next level and you're a mom. I'm not a mom yet. How is it, A, being an entrepreneur, and B, being an entrepreneur as a mother? Because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that. We want to glamorize everything, right? That's what social media is all about. It's like we always look cute and happy and everything is great. I mean, no one wants to see me cry, but I cry a lot. I'm like, what's happening with my life? Like, why? Like, you know what I mean? So, but I'm not going to show that on Instagram. But how is that for you, like being an entrepreneur?
Like it's very hard, especially because in the early days of your businesses, you just keep investing and investing and investing, and so it's very stressful. And having a baby, obviously, like he's my most important. Like my attention is always to him first. But obviously, having an amazing nanny is super helpful. I live next door to my mother-in-law. She's very helpful. Like I make sure I have a village around me. And Hamdan, my husband, he's super hands-on. So that's very helpful. But I mean, it is challenging. Like when he's sleeping, because we co-sleep in the bed next to me, I'm sitting there like sending emails or like brainstorming or doing my strategy so I don't literally, I don't get a minute off, like, or I'm doing, and he's like, nowadays he's like, enough the phone, mommy. Like I feel so guilty, but like at the same time, I'm present, like, so I'm in the room. I don't have to go to work and leave him with strangers all day. I'm there and he's playing around me. So he sees me that I'm there, but I have to work. That's the reality of the life we're living, right? So it's hard, man. It's like, I don't know. There's no easy way. There's no like pretty way of putting this. It's really hard. It's so hard. And it's not for the faint-hearted. And it's not for like, you got to have thick skin. And I don't recommend it to everybody because it's a hard journey, right? But like, it depends on your character. Like, I don't want to work for anyone. And I also want to like build something that is like for my son, and I want this to be my legacy. And so that keeps me on the straight, and I give up a lot of stuff. So I mean, yes, I have to show up for certain things for work, but then I don't do a lot of social stuff, and people might see me as being like, they might say, oh well, she's so like selfish or whatever, and I don't care, because like this is my family that I'm working for and with, and that's the most important thing for me.
So I remember I, had a, talk with Danya, and I asked her, and I want to ask you, you are an entertainer, you're a singer, but you're also an entrepreneur. You have all these amazing businesses. Do you see yourself more as an entertainer or as an entrepreneur?
Like the thing is, I'm a business girl at heart because I studied business and I have an MBA and all of that. So I think also being an artist is about being an entrepreneur, because I never had management. I did everything for myself.
Wow. To this day now, you don't have management?
Like I have people
or?
who assist me, but no, I don't have management.
Wow.
Because I never
That's
felt like
incredible.
anyone could represent me in the way that I wanted to be represented. And I felt like I didn't need it. Like I was really so hardworking. I put my blinkers on. I had people who would assist me along the journey.
Right.
But most of the things I did by myself. Yeah.
Wow. That's I thought you legit have like management, a team behind you.
I creative direct all my stuff. I have, I work with amazing talents like videographers, photographers, and whatever, but I know exactly what I want, So it was hard, but like I don't think that I feel like it's redundant to say you're one thing. I feel like a lot of people want to say like, oh, she's this or she's that, and you can't be everything. But actually, why not? I feel like it's really, as humans, we're stagnating if we do the same thing every day for the rest of our lives. We have so much possibility. And like, I think it's amazing to morph and grow and like become different things. Right. And I think that should be celebrated. I don't think it should be shunned. Like yeah. And so I am an entertainer and I'm an entrepreneur, but I enjoy the creative stuff so much. Like that is very important for me. I also have an entertainment agency, so I get to create beautiful shows all the time. So I get to like have that outlet. If I didn't have that, I would be stifled. So I think I'm both equally.
I love that. I wanted to ask you another thing. So I don't know if you know that about me, but I'm a very, like, I'm a homebody, right? I don't like to go out, really. I love to stay home. But
like, what do you do when you're at home?
When I'm home working, I'll be with my husband, or with my friends, but for me, it's also because I'm very much like, I believe in like energy, and I get drained when I go out. And yes, I know how to protect myself, but there's, like you can't protect yourself all the time, right? Some energy comes through.
Yeah.
But I'm also like really bad with like small talks. Like I'm a person, like I need to sit down with you and have a deep conversation. So, when I go out, like if I don't have to, I'm happy. So this is why it's another reason why, and I said that to Dania last time, I was like, this is why I created the podcast. This to me is going out. You know what I mean? It's like I have the one-on-one, I'm around with my people, and everyone who is behind the camera, like they're really close to me. So I get to build this with my team. So I love that. But you are one, and also because of like what you do as well, you're out. Right? How do you protect yourself? Because I am sure people see you and, you have a big following, you are known. How do you protect yourself from like, from the energy or the people, or how do you navigate with like, I can, be friends with you, but I cannot be friends with you. Like, do you see it right away, or?
I feel like you're a genuine person too. So that's hard for you to be around like fake people, right? And like, let's face it, like I'm not trying to say people are bad, but some people are just not in tune with who they are. Right. So like they're not able to be their most authentic self, or they gossip. And I hate gossip. Like I just really don't engage in that, so I don't have time for it, like I don't have the energy. Like if someone starts talking to me about someone, I'm like, please, like really, let's talk about something else, right? I'm very intuitive, and I have always been. Like as soon as I feel there is like a disconnect with someone, I never force it. And like you, I don't really like to have small talk. So I'll just like dance or like be in my moment. And I love meeting people of different backgrounds. Like I'm not the type of, I think humility is a really beautiful trait in a person. So I do love to talk to people, but not everyone has to be friends. Like you can have an exchange and a moment and then just be like, okay, I'm on my way. And I guess I'm just like really practical about it, because I know I'm going to go home to my son and my husband, and that's my little family. And I have my beautiful sisters who are my best friends. And I have my best friends who have been my best friends since I've been like 2 years old. And these are my constants, right? And anyone else who comes on this journey of life is most welcome, as long as they respect. And like the more the merrier. I love But also, like, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have time for like hanging out, like, oh, let's go have coffee, let's go have lunch, let's go to a party, let's go. So it is just a nice exchange. I think it's really important for humans to have that exchange, and also just see it for what it is, you know, like, had a little chat, we had a like lovely moment, and that's it. Don't have to be besties with everyone, you know?
That.
And it's okay. Like, I feel like when you're older too, you're just like, okay, that was nice, but that's it, you know? Like, no need to exchange numbers or Instagrams or whatever. Like, that was a moment, you know?
I don't know, like, I think we also grew up, you know, with a false narrative of, I'm gonna say this, you know, like, I'm sure, I don't know about you, but I watch like Sex in the City. So you grew up with like watching Sex in the City, and you think like you need all your girlfriends, and that's how it is, right? You need your like 4 or 5 girlfriends, and you have to hang out, and you have to always be together. I think, you know, building friendships, especially nowadays with, you know, how we live, it's very hard, you know, like, for me, it's, you know, it's easy to make friendship, like, it's easy to have like friendship, but it's hard to have real friendship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think like my friends, my best friends, have nothing to do with this world, like, of music. They're actually hippies. Like, it's not even anything, like, they'll laugh at me sometimes at the things that I have to go to or whatever. But they're my grounding also, you know, like, I find this like escape where I can be truly myself. And I think it's important to have that tribe, right? And I think it's healthy to have people that are not in your sphere, because you all go back and you have a laugh and you share and you, like, you know, have this moment, and like, one of them is a banker, and one of them is an art curator, and one of them is like literally a meditation guide, you know. But when we're together, we're just ourselves. We're friends, we're sisters, we love each other. But because they're also elevated, we don't have this thing like, oh, you didn't call me, or like, where have you been? You know, like, that is like, come on now. You know what I mean? So,
you know, one thing about you, what I realized is like, you're very well put together. Like, I feel like sometimes you're like, you know exactly what to say, and you're very much in, you know, in your lane, right? I want to know also, like, spill the coffee. Okay, like, I want to know
that I'm a psycho.
Well, we all know we are psychos, you know.
I mean,
I'm sorry, Persians, right? No, I'm kidding. But I want to know, what, when there's no cameras, when there's no you being out, no people, who are you? What makes Layla?
Like, the thing is, I'm really not that different. Like, I'm very sassy with my family, but I'm very loving and I'm very nurturing. You know, I don't really feel like but since I've been a kid, I'm very much a performer. Like, in my family, I was the one that would do accents and like make everyone laugh. And like, in general, when I wake up in the morning, I like to be in a good mood. I like to laugh with my family. I like to have a good time. I love humor. So maybe actually, like, if what you sometimes see is a bit more polished. But like, you know, yeah, I'm a tomboy. I'm like, I love to laugh, be sarcastic, and be silly. Like, I think maybe sometimes my persona comes across as like very ladylike, but actually I'm like not like that. You know, I'm like,
really?
Yeah. Like, I am not, I mean, I'm silly, you know, like, even with my son, like, I was just thinking, oh my God, like, who does this? But this morning we spoke in this like really weird, ugly voice for like an hour. I was thinking to myself, like, what am I doing? But actually, like, since I've been young, I've been like this very natural performer and whatever. And that's what I like to do, you know? And it's not like I'm trying to be like well put together either, but like, also this comes from like being a Persian girl. Like, you grow up, you go to etiquette school, your parents are constantly, like, do this, do that, be like this, prepare, you know, so you kind of get conditioned to be always like, culturally, you have to present like everything is great and everything is fine. But like in my natural situation, I'm not always so polished.
Is there going to be new music coming out?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah. Actually, just now I messaged my producer. I'm like, we need to have a call to finalize everything because I really want to get the music out this year.
So what can we expect?
It's actually like a bit futuristic and a bit witchy, the sound. Like it's
witchy?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Witchy.
Like the strings and this like very edgy kind of sound, and like, yeah, witchy in a good way, but like I feel like it's like my first album was very spiritual and like elevated, and this is more like a bit more grimy.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you get into, like, do you write your own songs, or do you have
I co-write, yeah.
Okay, so how do you go with like, okay, this is the type of music that we're gonna create, and these are like, you work always with different people, I guess, right? Or do you have always the same crew?
Yeah, like usually how I like to do it is I write a poem about like a feeling that I have, or subject matter, or whatever, and then we build on that. And I work with different musicians. Sometimes I'll layer the melody with a guitarist or a keyboardist, and then I'll work with the producer to like build on those sounds. Yeah.
Did that like change for you, like, you know, when you became a mom? Like, how did that change in as an artist? Like, and what are the
literally
changes?
have no time for it, and like I also don't have the brain capacity to like dream up stuff. And also like good music comes from pain, right? And like I'm not going to write a song about like pain of being an entrepreneur. It's best to write about heartache and heartbreak. And I don't really have that right now, right? I'm like in a very stable and happy marriage.
On what?
And like I have a beautiful baby. So I'm not like, you know, so yeah, it's been more challenging, but like these songs have been up my sleeve for some time. And I got to go to south of France, and I just
saw that.
Yeah, to this beautiful recording studio, and we just like locked in for 4 days. It's called Lee Music. We had a beautiful time, and I was like very productive because there was no like roomie, you know, to be kind of distracting me. So yeah, I think like for me, I guess that's going to be an important thing, is like I get time to just get away and focus on it and get it done, because otherwise it's impossible.
Wow. What is one thing that you would like people to know about you that they don't know? Like, what is one thing that you would sometimes, because there's some things that I would be like, man, I wish you would know that about me. You know what I mean? Because we all have such a, you know, we see this and we judge either good or bad or whatever, because we're not living with you day to day. So what is one thing that you think about, like, I wish they would know this about me?
I think people think that I had it very easy, and I had like a lot of support and family support and all of that. But actually, and it's not something that I don't talk about, but it's not something that I have openly spoken about. But I had a really hard time growing up. I had a really hard time in my 20s, like stuff that like, it's too deep to go into now, but like stuff that like most people wouldn't be able to handle, you know? And I think people see me, they're like, oh, well, she got all these opportunities like this and that. And that really bothers me, because it wasn't the case. Like no one handed me anything.
Mm-hmm.
I worked like a beast, and I worked independently, and I worked against a lot of people's, like a lot of people's like opinions, you know, of what I could or couldn't do. And I continue to do that, you know. It's just like,
when you say like you had a hard childhood, like how can we imagine that? Like
my dad was never around, like a lot of instability, a lot of moving around. Like we literally like moved countries to countries, like, you know, it was hard, like, you know. And so
how did that affect you?
Like it was hard because I was also the eldest of like, you know, all the girls, and so I had to like show up for them, and those things are hard to go through as a child, you know.
Right.
And then in my 20s, I had like a whole lot of other hardships. And I guess, you know, I think like people think, oh, she was privileged and she got this and she got that, when it wasn't the case. Like I worked really hard. And before I wouldn't say it because I'm like, oh, you know, it's not something that needs to be shared. But I think people need to know that like not everybody gets things handed to them on a silver platter. And also like that's not always the answer. I feel like when you have a hunger to succeed, it gives you, so don't think like, oh, she's lucky or she did. No, you got to work hard. It doesn't matter who you are. You know what I mean? And it comes only to those who really put in the effort.
Why did you never really wanted to talk about that? What was the reason? Because like I said, I think it's, again, like I mean, I know how it feels because I know, you know, a lot of people don't understand, and I could tear up right now. When you go after your dreams, if it's singing or having your own beauty brand or whatever it is, there's a lot that you have to say no to, right? Like, for example, I wasn't able to go to a lot of birthday parties, or I was not allowed, like I couldn't go to a funeral, or I couldn't travel, like I couldn't go and watch or see the world. There's a lot that I had to like myself because I didn't have the finances. Like everything I made went right back into my business.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't see the sadness that I had to go through, which when you talk about that, I can relate so hard because I'm like, yeah, I see that, but I can guarantee that it didn't happen like this. Like I see it in your eyes. Like when you just speak about it right now, I'm like, damn, like I feel that.
No, but till now it's a struggle. Like
right.
you know,
Same.
people, you got to know that. Like
Same.
It's not, people think what they see from the outside is like, it's all, they see all the wins, but they don't see
the losses.
The losses, they don't see the hardship, they don't see the tears, they don't see the sweat and the blood and all of that.
So why don't we show that? Why? What's the reason? Why are we not showing that part?
To be honest, like I just haven't had the brain space or the energy to do it. Like in the last 3 years, we've opened 8 brick and mortar businesses. Like that is not a small feat. But I don't have any problem anymore. Before I was like, oh, it's a bit shameful, or, you know, this and that. Like, no, actually, people need to know the truth, because I feel like even having a baby, like, I feel like I was so blindsided. I'm like, what the hell? Why? I have 3 sisters. Why didn't anyone tell me this sucks so bad? No, I'm serious.
But that's one thing I am afraid of, becoming a mom. I'm like, I don't know if it's really that easy. Like, I'm like,
It's so hard. And it's beautiful and so rewarding. But I'm like, why doesn't anyone talk about the hardships and like just how hard breastfeeding is? Like, I thought I'd be such a natural breastfeeder, like, because, you know, like my sisters were, and like, I don't know, I have boobs. Like, I was like, it's fine, just like take the milk. But it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And it gave me so much anxiety because I was like, oh my God, I can't feed my child. Like, that's the basic requirement that a kid needs from his mom, and I can't fulfill this. Like, and I think more and more people should understand that it's so important to be real, because then it doesn't make you feel so alone on your journey, right? Sometimes you're like, why do I have to go through this? Why did I choose this life? But of course, there are always rewards, and there's always like positives and all of that, because there's also negatives with, like, of course it's great to have a secure job, but do you want to work all your life making someone else rich and like clocking onto someone else's time and having zero, like, you know, autonomy of your time? Like, is that a good thing also? I mean, it depends on the person, right? Some people like security, but I like the challenge.
I have to say, after talking to you now, like, I love you even more.
Oh, I love you too.
And I had the moment I met you, but now just you sitting here, that's what I said. Like, there's something about you that it's like, yes, glamorous, beautiful, elegant. But then when I feel like you are very selective with people, right? Like, you know who you're going to share, and it's beautiful, and that's something amazing. But I just love that you're opening up and also showing us the other sides, because there's too many people walking around just showing us the glamorous part of, all that. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I
And
really
you
do.
gave me the freedom and the security and space to do that. And I really respect what you're doing, because I think, more and more women especially should see the triumphs and the tribulations, it's all a part of it.
I love that. I just want to say thank you so much for
my love.
being here, for being such a big supporter from the beginning I met you. I really, really appreciate that.
Love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And as a thank you also, because we are at, Intellect.
Yes, by the way, the coffee is amazing.
Isn't it amazing?
So good. And I'm a big coffee snob.
Oh my God, me too. They supply for so many coffee shops and hotels and restaurants. And they were so kind to let us, film today. So as a thank you from Intellect, if you want to give it to her.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's so nice.
I don't know what's in there, but you can do.
Should we do a reveal?
Yeah, let's do a reveal.
Oh, I love.
Unboxing.
Okay, wait. Let me do it properly then. I don't have those ratchet nails, but like.
Hold on.
You don't have ratchet nails
I don't.
either.
Me too.
I did at one point, but now with a baby, I can't. Oh, wow. I love it. By the way, my husband's going to love me. Yes. Oh, and I love this t-shirt, guys. This is so clever. Flat white matters. I love it. That's amazing.
That is awesome. Thank you
so much, Intellect. Love your coffees and love your space. Oh, wait, but this is what's the cutest of all. These like little UAE memento stickers.
I love stickers.
Yeah. It's so cool. Oh my God, it's the dirham. Very, very cute. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.